This is Adam Simbeye with This Week in Perspective. On the 31st of May, that was last week Thursday, Tanzania and the rest of the world marked No Tobacco Day 2018 with the theme Tobacco and Heart Diseases. It is on record that today tobacco, smoking, the rest of it remains the chief risk factor for the prevalence of non-communicable diseases in Tanzania, and most being heart diseases and tuberculosis, diabetes, you name it. There is therefore a need to fight against excessive use of tobacco, but to try and ask properly whether it's just excessive or just smoking in the country. Whilst tobacco is a cash crop in many countries, including Tanzania, and contributes substantially to the tax revenue, smoking of tobacco is still harmful to those who smoke. What should we be doing to reconcile the dangers and health hazards of tobacco, smoking, and the income tax, the income it brings into the country? So today my panel will attempt to answer this question and many other related ones. And with me today are on the right, Finnegan Wasimbe, who is a member or board member, whatever, of the Tanzania Tobacco Control Forum. Next is the executive director of Tanzania Tobacco Control Forum, Lutgard Kokulinda Kagaruki. Next is Dr. Mashombo Mkamba,
yes,
who is a public health specialist and chairperson, as well as member of the
TPHA, Tanzania
yes.
Public Health Association.
Yes, but of Tanzania Tobacco Control Forum as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sure.
Next, last but not least, is Patience Mloe. Is a legal officer of Tanganyika Legal Law Society, Tanganyika Law Society, also member of the same forum.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm happy the gender balance on my program has been
been observed.
Well observed.
It's still skewed.
Being here. So, gentlemen, let us try and educate the viewers, the public Tanzanian who access this program every Sundays on the related health hazards of tobacco smoking, whether excessive tobacco smoking or even moderately smoking has harmful results. So let's hear, these are the experts, and from the Control Forum, they try their best to educate the people on these issues. So can I start with, on my left, Dr. Mashombo?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Is excessive smoking a health risk in Tanzania?
Certainly, it is a very big health risk. And it is unfortunately that much is not learnt out of it. And much is not known out of it just because the health hazards that do occur take too long to happen. Therefore, people might not relate the two, the diseases or the condition they are being affected with, as regard to their use of tobacco. Therefore, excessive use of tobacco, in other words, it cuts across to all the non-communicable diseases that we all know. If you go to the cancers, you need not to mention much. You definitely mention tobacco.
And it's related to liver, to lung cancer.
All cancers, most
cancers,
about the 10 cancers that you know, include the cervical cancers, the stomach cancers. You have to say, probably with all other cancers that starts from the throat downwards, including the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the big cancers that are quite related with the tobacco. But nonetheless, the fact that tobacco is cutting across, it goes for cancers, it goes for respiratory diseases, that we are all aware, the chronic obstructive diseases of the respiration, they are all almost all due to cancer, due to tobacco use. But further than that, for people who have other conditions are exacerbated by tobacco. For example, if you're asthmatic,
Yes.
and you happen to, at the same time, to smoke, the condition gets worse.
Oh dear.
For example, if you have a cervical cancer and you keep on smoking,
Yes.
it gets worse. That is not a question too.
And predominantly women, because they are the ones with cervical.
Surely, with the women, it is even worse. And for other studies, as I might say, the prevalence of smoking in women was quite low. Sometimes in 2000, we did studies at Temeke, and we found women prevalence in smoking was quite low, 2.6 something percent. But today, as other surveys are saying, it is 5%, which means people, or women in particular, are still smoking, and the number of smokers are increasing over time.
Why, doctor? Is it because I thought people get frustrated, they smoke to remove the frustration? Is this correct to assume this?
Well, I would say it's not quite, because we cannot measure frustrations at this point in time. But what we know is people tend to, to copy behaviors. You just see one is smoking, and when you are young, or when you see one with a big position, like you here, being a very big boss. If one sees if one sees you smoking, we think that's the best, the best practice.
So you have an influence.
Yes, that is really a peer group, and real influenced by, interrelations, and the fact that you're all the time together. That will influence one to smoke. And once you start smoking, as will be said by Rutgard, you have, addictions from the nicotine. Tomorrow you really want to smoke. The next day you really want to smoke.
And if you don't get a puff, you start shaking.
You feel it. You feel it. There's something that is missing. And you need it so that you can do whatever you've been doing.
So it's more addictive than alcohol.
Very much. Very
than
addictive.
Alcohol.
Not than alcohol, but it's very addictive. That is, it puts you in the position that you'll always demand a puff. You'll always demand a puff, regardless of what is in your pocket. Even if you have a small amount of money, you'll spend it for cigarette instead of something else that is of any benefit.
More or less.
Yeah, sure. Is.
Just like a drug.
Yeah. Yes, it is really addictive, and it's very difficult to go out of it if you are not dedicated and committed.
Okay.
You just remain like that.
I'm still with you for a few seconds, and then I'll go through it again. So, through experience, has it occurred to you why people people smoke, and excessively for that matter? And there are others who don't smoke at all, whether through peer grouping or whatever. They don't smoke at all. Why? It's just something that motivates people to smoke.
Well, that is a bit tricky, and this is lifestyle sort of living. If you come from a family in which most of the households do smoke, your father is a smoker, your mother is a smoker, and probably your uncle, your aunt, and the like, they might have started long, just as we said as peers.
Yes.
But again, when children or young people, growing young people, they see it and they find my father.
It's part of life.
And, they just go in it, thinking that this is a lifestyle, and not knowing the hazards that we are here to talk of, because the hazards will come in 15, 20 years to come, and so. And some people might tell you it is not of a great harm. After all, my granddad died.
I've lived long enough.
Yeah. Why should I bother about it today when I'll die after 40 or 50 years?
Yes.
Therefore, I cannot tell exactly why other families would smoke rather than as opposed by others. But the fact that one family is smoking, you go to school, you find your teachers are smoking. You go to the university, you find your lecturers all are smoking. You go to the big ceremonies where very big the official people are there, executives and the like, and they're all smoking. Why don't I smoke? After all, I don't die tomorrow.
Oh dear.
And even if it happened, men will die anyway.
Yeah.
There are so many ways of putting it in that way.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Mashombo. Lutgen,
Yeah.
I saw you laughing and kind of enjoying it. Was rubbing you very well, what Dr. Mashombo was saying. What have you got to say?
I get excited, you know,
Yes.
when anybody talks about tobacco.
Yes.
I need to correct one thing.
Yes.
There's no safe level to tobacco use. So this question of excessive is not there.
Sure, really?
No.
Even if you take one, it's also
Even
dangerous.
if you take half, there's no safe level to tobacco use.
Sure.
One who takes, somebody who takes a single cigarette, and somebody who takes a pack or 2 or 3, you could die earlier with your 1 cigarette per day,
Yes.
and leave one who's taking 5 packs a day, maybe could live even 100 years. You know, doctor knows better. Our immunities are different.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
That's why you have old mamas who've been smoking or taking snuff for years and they still survive. So we need to be specific about that. There is no safe
So the word
level.
excessive is superfluous.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
fit here.
Yeah.
So it's any smoking
Any
or
smoking,
all smoking.
all, any amount is hazardous and could make you sick. And that's why actually you have some wives dying, leaving their husbands. They die from second-hand smoke from their husbands.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
You do know Superman?
Mhm.
His wife died of his smoke. And Superman still lives. So there's no safe level. Any level is dangerous.
And is vice versa true also?
like,
If the wife smokes, the husband
oh
does.
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And as Dr. rightly put it, unfortunately, when we were growing, it was like taboo for a girl to smoke. These days, you go to these big hotels, it's cool.
To be seen to be
They
smoking.
say, yeah, it's cool, it's okay. And you know, they would go sitting, what do you call,
Yeah.
you know, we have it in Kiswahili, nne.
Kunjani.
What do you call it in
I
English?
don't know.
So you'd see these young girls, and thank God they've put a ban on shisha, because that was a big disaster.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So the girls are really picking up. But thank God our advocacy has been well picked by the adult population. If you look around, you wouldn't see most adults smoking. And more so, like the executives, it's mostly the poor who will smoke the
A
most.
bit of dichotomy. Why poor smoke
I really don't know, maybe.
when even access to the
Ignorance.
cigarette is
Actually, the two major groups that smoke the most
Yes.
are the youth and the poor. And that's why the World Health Organization Framework Convention on Tobacco Control insists on raising tobacco taxes. They say that's the best buy. Article 6 of the convention talks about raising taxes. And when we talk about taxes, we don't talk about this 1 shilling, 2 shillings. WHO, FCTC talks about making it at least 70% of the retail price. You know, you reach a stage where the youth and the poor won't be able to afford it. Imagine if a pack was like 20,000.
Shillings.
How many youth would
how
buy
much
it?
is it today?
A pack
Yes.
is 2,500, 3,000.
So that's
And
that's
still-
affordable, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not only that. You know, we are still so behind compared to other countries where the laws are working. We still sell our cigarettes in single sticks. You know, the pack is cheap, but we still sell one for 100 shillings.
Mzee, kijana kalete sigara moja.
So even the youth, even the poor can afford that. So if you can be able to stop selling single sticks and raise your prices very high, you know, you go abroad, a pack is $10, up to 20 in some countries, and that has a very big impact on reduction on smoking, hand in hand with reduction on disease and health expenditure, but there's an up here on government revenue. That's what people don't understand. And that's why...
Can you explain what you mean by government
I
revenue?
will. And that's why companies fight that very much. Because, you know, if you put it high, the youth won't be able to afford it, and those are their potential customers. You know, the old folks are lamenting in Ocean Road and Mimbiri, so they are always looking for replacements. And the point is, as he rightly put it, tobacco is highly addictive, the nicotine. By the way, it's more addictive than illicit drugs.
Sure,
It's
really.
easier to take somebody out of illicit drugs
Yes.
than from nicotine addiction. So, if the price is so high, the haves, being so addicted, will buy it at any cost, just as they do for drugs. You know, they've put all these restrictions. I'm told now they're super expensive, but people will still go for them because of the addiction. So, at the end of the day, you have two graphs going down, the users and the diseases, and you have this graph shooting up in government revenue. So it's a win-win situation. But companies will always tell you, if you raise taxes, then illicit,
Black market.
you know, illicit cigarettes will come in, you know, black marketing. And they are the ones who are responsible for that. You know, studies from other countries have shown these companies, they will smuggle the cigarettes out and then repack them, bring them back at, without paying tax, make them cheaper so the youth can afford them, even if the prices are high. So if you raise the taxes, you need to make sure your immigration, your customs are also in order. And Kenya is doing it very well, you know. And they are already seeing the benefits of tax rises. So
And
that's
the
the
tax
situation. Yeah. So now talking about starting, why do, you know, number one is peer pressure. And that's why sometimes you find even doctors smoking.
And they know the hazards.
When they started, it was fun. Now come on, don't be mom's baby. Smoke.
Take one.
Have a puff. The first time they'll cough, they'll have a headache. Then tomorrow, come on. And the third day, they want it. The fourth day, they are requesting. The fifth day, if they don't have money, they will steal mom's money. Now they're smokers. By the time they realize, they are so much hooked. In spite of knowing all the consequences, they can't stop. I have my late brother-in-law. He was a very nice pediatrician. He died of smoking. And he was still so young. So these things, you know, but he also put it very rightly. If dad, mom are smoking, those are our heroes, you know. We want to imitate. And the other thing that we also need to fight now are the smoking in movies. Because for kids, those are heroes, these stars. This has been banned in most countries. Unfortunately, we still have it here. So if you
Yeah,
see
but we
some...
don't make our own films these days. Most of these are imported.
No, even the ones that
Still
are
made
made here, unfortunately. Our stars are also smokers, smoking. So the kids would like to be like somebody,
Yeah.
somebody,
With
you know?
big names.
That's why, you know, with good laws, these are all forbidden, you know. That's why even advertising is being banned. In most countries, you don't have it anymore. Unfortunately, you know, Honorable Umi managed to bring down the billboards. You know, we used to have huge billboards. They no longer exist. But then, you know, these companies are so...
Smart.
I wouldn't call it smart. Look for a bad word, because smart could be you as well. Look for a bad word. Now it's all been concentrated at points of sale. Go to Mlimani City. And they make sure, you know, all the other products are there, but the cigarettes are either by the till or just in front.
Or hidden in the cupboard.
No. Very nicely displayed.
Conspicuous.
So as you come to buy, you don't pay them at the main till. You know, you come out and then they're here. You know, you look at them. that is all to attract people, so that in case you didn't see it, there it is for you. Now, in those countries that have good laws, that doesn't exist anymore. And even just display is also appealing to the youth. So if you go to UK, US, there will be in a cupboard that is plain, just written cigarettes. So you say your brand. I did try to ask this shopkeeper in UK, can you please open for me so that I see you? And he said, madam, I'm not allowed to. Just say what you want.
I'll give it to
Now
you.
that has an impact, you know, compared to what you have at Mlimani City.
Openly displayed.
And not only that, those adverts are nowadays, you know, revolving and changing, and you know, these words still coming. You don't see that in most countries anymore. So that also has an impact to make people stop.
Let me crack a little joke in the process. The question of you know, peer groups, learning from peer groups or from friends, whatever. When I was 23, many years ago,
You tried one.
I'll tell you that. I was and a student in London.
Yes, sure.
We had a few friends, Tanzanians, but they are not smoking. So, in talking, we thought, you know, if you wanted to get an English girl, or Irish for that matter, you go to Hyde Park. And you go to Hyde Park, you have to have a smoke to entice. So, do you like a smoke? So,
It's a lifestyle.
lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle, yeah.
But I kind of stopped. But later on, I visited Mission Company in Arusha.
Yeah, sure.
I was given 2 tobacco, and these 2 tobacco pipes. And these pipes were very famous because the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Harold Wilson, whom I know because he was there when I was a student, we admired him from the Labour Party.
Yes.
He was smoking this,
Sure.
using Mission pipe.
Pipe.
So I got the 2 pipes, and there I am. I started looking for a good tobacco with a good aroma. I started smoking. 1 in the car, 1 in the office.
No, it
But
was,
later
it was
on-
the norm by then.
Later on, I actually weaned myself. Of course, my wife was not happy about it. It was just when I got married later after. So, I don't know why I stopped. I can't explain. And I don't touch it. I hate even the smoke now.
No, there must be a reason. Think.
No,
You
no.
didn't wake up one
I
day and
I
say,
no longer
"No."
offer smoke to a girl because I have a wife.
That's very important.
Yes.
Mloe,
Yeah.
what do you say to this? I mean, you hate both.
Yes.
Uh,
Maybe I just start where she ended. She spoke very well, Mama Lotgard. She has been on this fight for so long.
yes.
Yeah, and personally, I appreciate the efforts that the Tobacco Control Forum has been doing to our country, because without such forum, things might have been more worse than the way they are today. Because as we have already discussed, smoking is a lifestyle. It goes with the fashion. You know, it attracts especially the youth. Now we are talking of the youth because they are more into smoking than old people, to say it. If we reflect back where we come from to our areas, to our respective areas, and the places where youth spend more their time, in colleges, in clubs, you know, you find youth smoking, and it gets attracted to others who do not smoke, thinking that this is a lifestyle and we should copy it. Because if you don't,
Mloe is smoking,
if Mloe is smoking,
What
you know,
is that?
they are looking for the profile. This is a famous person. He's a singer, maybe. No, he's a politician.
Yeah, sure.
Smoking. Why can't I? Who am I?
Or
I
maybe
should
he's
try.
good in class.
He's good in class, you know.
Maybe that's why he gets good marks.
And another thing which has to do with the legal framework that we have is on accessibility of the smoking. No, all the tobacco products are being accessible very easily. You find vendors on streets while we're on traffic jam. You find this young man selling sweets, you know, but in it there are tobacco products, cigarettes. So it's easy to get a stick. It's very easy, you know. And sometimes, as Madam has said here, nicotine has more addiction than
Illicit.
alcohol or
Oh,
illicit.
alcohol,
Yes,
yeah.
because the smell of the cigarettes, it attracts some people. You know, when you find somebody smoking in a public, especially when you have kids, you know, it has that tendency of you know, when you get it, somebody might be attracted. Oh, it smells good, you know. By itself, it invites that person to go into smoking.
I told you when I was
because-
smoking a pipe.
Yes.
I had I was using
Using the very good aroma.
something player.
Yes.
Right.
See?
It is a wonderful aroma.
Yeah.
So I was attracted to that.
So, smoking in public has triggered a number of smokers to join in because there's no control. People used to smoke just at a public places. You find you are at the bus stop. This fellow just is smoking without any control, without any measures. I think that's one of the failures of the legal framework that we have. Again, on accessibility, you find the law is very clear. We have the Tobacco Products Regulation Act of 2003. I think Section 7, subsection 1, tries to prohibit selling tobacco products to the persons below 18 years of age. But in real world, it's very common a father to send a son to get a stick, no? Just get me a cigarette.
I like it.
And the sellers, you know, they are doing business. It's very easy. The shopkeeper just gives this kid without knowing if this is
Or even
contrary to the law.
asking who was sent you
Exactly.
to buy
And
it.
they assist by lighting it
Yeah,
right
yeah.
away.
Light
And
it.
this-
Yeah.
Then
Yes.
we'll continue, you know, testing and
And also, in the past, we had some cigarette brands which attracted people to smoke. When you have a cigarette called a Sportsman, you know, you know, for people in sports will think maybe this is good for in sports.
Yeah.
So the naming itself, it attracts people, and the myth around it, you know.
Oh, Marlboro.
Yes.
You know the Marlboro guy where he died of smoking. By
So
the
in schools, you find people talking different myths on how to smoke and the like. They say maybe if you smoke this blunt, it brings you hotness, you feel pressured. And this one is not good blunt. So one will be attracted to test it to see are these myths correct or not. So that's how we find people getting into smoking and using different tobacco products. Because when we talk of tobacco products, most people just think it's cigarettes, but we have so many tobacco products. As you said, we used to have a very serious crisis on shisha. Everybody in town thought this is fashion. Everybody will go to town just to taste the shisha. No?
Serena.
Yes, e-cigarettes. It's now coming, you know. They say this is the levels Madam was saying. There is no excessive because every day the technology is changing. Also in this area, things do change. Now people are talking of e-cigarettes and the other related tobacco products which are so common in the country. So lifestyle has much to do with smoking, and the addiction is caused, if not controlled, because in schools, clubs, they do happen. I was talking to one person one day about the addiction. A very young man said, no, smoking after all is not sin because my priest at my parish is smoking, you see. So a parish priest is a role model to this young man. So for me it was trick. Smoking is not bad. If this
you remember
priest
those
is
white
preaching,
priests?
yes,
The
and
majority of them
smoking.
had pipes and, you know,
And
pretty cool.
So when you find somebody like that, you get attracted. Yeah. And one more rusty thing that I wanted just to put on table just for discussion as comparing between the rich and the poor. Majority in any population settings, you'll find poor people if you draw the pyramids. So definitely the number will be large down to the poor people. But the rich are on the top always. And it has been common that when we have rich people, we associate them with the level of civilization. They are more civilized compared to these people down here with the exposure they like. So it's very rare to find this rich person smoking in public. You find the rich person just walking around, you know. It's not easy.
Yeah,
But they do smoke.
Can I intervene
a lot.
there?
But-
So that he doesn't lose his train of
Yes.
thinking. Yes, yes.
so they do smoke. So for that case, lifestyle between the rich and the poor is also different. No, it's also different. That's why sometimes you can come up with the finding that it's only poor people who are smoking. No, even rich people are smoking in hidden places most of the time.
Yes, well, you wanted
Yeah,
to
I wanted
interject
to
here.
say that, you know, the story was different in the past. And actually, smoking is associated with luxury,
Success.
with success, with money. And that's why smoking started much earlier, much earlier in developed countries, because affluence. And even here, the rich used to smoke. It's education, it's knowledge of the harm. And that's why now, like if you go to UK or US, you would say, wow, still the population that smokes is much bigger than here. But then their graph is going like this. So if you compare, let's say from 1961 to date, a lot of them had quit. Now for us, we started much later. We are now heading to that epidemic that is going down, you know, in their areas. And that's why you have more cancer, cardiac problems in those areas than we have here, because they started earlier. Now that's why I said, thank God, the adult population here has picked up our advocacy. So the majority of them have quit. Remember, in those in those days, even now there would be an ashtray here. Remember, executive meetings will be having ashtrays. You wouldn't dare do that now.
No.
Everybody would think you're crazy, and even if you started puffing, everybody would shout at you.
Please.
Come on, you can't do that. So really, it's the education mostly. And still, you know, majority of the well-to-do now don't smoke. I have a friend, a well-to-do friend, and he tells me, you know, Luti, I have to hide. I have tried very hard to help him quit. I think I've failed.
It's not working.
So he says, you know, I have to hide because I feel embarrassed when I'm with my friends. None of them smokes. But the addiction in him is so strong, he can't stop.
So you just excuse himself and go out and
Yeah.
puff.
And he says he's embarrassed,
He's already an
he's
addict,
ashamed,
yeah.
like a doctor would be smoking. I remember I saw this one pathologist at the chief medical officer's office. And you know, I could tell from his mouth, I said, you are a smoker, aren't you? Oh yeah. How dare you do that? And you know, I'm a pathologist, I open those chests every day. I said, but for heaven's sake, why?
Addicted.
You know, that is what you're
I'll die one day, just like
It will
that.
come later.
Yeah, they try to soften it.
Yeah, look, before I ask the opinion of our fourth participant, Lutgia, this question of Europe starting earlier, the US, Europe, and all that, could it be because of the weather? Because for those of you who have lived outside in Europe, because of the cold weather, there are two things: either you smoke or you drink hot spirit. So could the weather be why?
So you want to say now the weather's changed? As I say,
Just the excuse.
it's the same excuse people give, you know, to shun away frustrations. Yeah, I'm frustrated, let me take a puff. Let me have a glass. You know, it's a myth.
Yeah,
It's a myth.
And it was by then style. And, you know, cigarette business started in US in the 16th century. It never came over here until after the Second World War.
Yes.
So to them, as you said, the prime minister was smoking. And by the way, even the father of the nation here used to smoke in those days. So, I mean, it was fashion. It was style.
Sure.
It was, you know, you look special. So that's it.
Okay. Finnegan, you have been quiet for a while, other than sharing the jokes and all this. What is your take on this? I mean, the whole question of smoking, not excessive anymore, according to Rutgard, but just smoking cigarettes, with all the reasons why people smoke and where they copy the whole habit and all that. What is your take on this? Have you ever smoked?
Yeah, sure.
All right, you tell us more
tried,
from
tried
experience.
one or two.
How can't he?
Does he look a smoker?
No. I know him.
No, it's like, as you have said, there is nothing new which I can say, because when I was at school in France, there was a lot of peer pressure also. You know, when it's cold and you're going out, you know, with friends, and in Paris, in Paris, I mean, more than 50. I mean, it's a fashion. You go, you don't move, and they used to be amazed when for us, because we were very few Africans in our class. They couldn't believe it, that because we were not smoking, and they're like, hey, guys, what's wrong with you? Everyone, when it's break time, everyone goes out and they get a cup of coffee and a cigarette. So you're in the lobby, and everyone is smoking, and like, what's wrong with these Africans? Eh? Why don't you smoke? I was with Uganda, and my friend from Uganda, and we were not smoking. So there was a lot of peer pressure, and thank God we went there when we were not very young. We were at least advanced age, around late 20s. You know? So we managed to control that. But the truth is, honestly, peer pressure contributes a lot. And also, as Rutgerd said, parents. When we went to Tabora, we went to do our research there, we found that most of the kids who belong to farmers,
Tobacco farmers, were also smoking, or also trying out, you know.
Because it's available. It's available.
They roll it in they roll it down, and they bought it. They smoke. Very young kids, you know. And the feeling is, okay, daddy is smoking, and everyone should be smoking. Yeah,
mommy is smoking.
Yeah, so primary school kids, you find them smoking, and some developing diseases at very young stage. Yeah, so.
All right, Rutgerd, let me come back to you now. How successful is your forum in controlling?
We started the forum together. Well, we haven't done much, but still we have achieved a few things. Number one, if it wasn't for our efforts, Tanzania wouldn't have ratified the convention.
This
was in 2007.
Yes.
Yeah. We were in Parliament just before Professor Makusa, by then Health Minister, tabled the motion. And I can assure you, the industry had played its part. But then, we also played ours. We had this sensitization seminar of so many MPs. I remember, I think it was Honorable somebody. Before we started, I said, Honorable, I trust you are on our side. And he said, no. For me, I am with my farmers. But then I had this very short clip that I had taken from Namtumbo. And the farmers were lamenting. We are hungry. We are poor. We are sick. We don't want tobacco. Government has abandoned us. We want alternatives. And you know, I did give a presentation and colleagues, and I put it at the end, and all of them went like this, you know. And at the end of the day, actually, they took forms to register for membership. And then when we went in Parliament, you could see those that had talked well to the industry, you know, and they came up with very strong deliberations, actually. That group from that committee, this lady MP said, from now on, no more advertisements, no more promotion, no more this. And then one lady, but you know, the companies are the ones that help sports, and you know now what's going to happen to sports. And then there was another one who said, you know, but these figures, they are not real. I remember this MP from Kigoma said, you know, I did statistics. You know, it's about numbers, but we've been convinced by these people. So our advocacy had a lot of impact. Otherwise, it was going to be tough. So the convention was ratified. Unfortunately, since then, because once you've ratified the convention, it's either of the two. If you don't have a good law that conforms to the requirements of the convention, you make it. If you have a bad one that can be put in order to match the convention, you do that.
Tanzania ratified that convention, though.
Yeah, we ratified in 2007. Long time, 10 years now. Yes. And we still, you know, we have a law that is useless, because when it was being prepared, the industry was a stakeholder. So they made sure they left loopholes. Even if you took them to court, they could easily wind.
Yeah.
So we've been struggling to have a new one. It hasn't been easy. And
How do you get through your forum, control forum? How do you reconcile, on the one hand, the hazard of smoking tobacco, compounded or supported by the 2003 WHO Fuel Convention, and on the other, industries which are involved in tobacco. Through my reading to prepare for this topic, I read somewhere that at least there are about six big companies in Tanzania, which
10 now.
10 now, which are involved in tobacco industry.
Which is a shame for us.
And well over 2.5, I might be right, I might be wrong, you will correct me, 2.5 million people employed in the tobacco industry. And of course, they pay taxes to the government. Now, how do you reconcile this and the hazards on the one hand, and ultimately controlling tobacco? Not necessarily use, but you have to stop tobacco industry altogether. Can we get to that position where the government say no more tobacco industry in the country?
You know, this business of revenue from tobacco has remained with us only. Even our neighbors don't talk that language anymore because there is no business in tobacco.
We
If
do
you
have
put on the
business.
scale, the losses are much, much more than the meager gains. Now, to start with the employment, 2.5 M, remember that is 5% of Tanzania population, and it's only 70,000 of them that farm. You know, when you talk about 2.5 M, you include even the sellers in shops, in supermarkets, even the manufacturing,
The distributors.
so they are the distributors. Though it's all combined in that 2.5, which is a very meager thing. But then, you know, we did studies at Ocean Road Cancer Institute in 2009. 32% of all cancers were related to tobacco. And that, by that time, they cost the government $40 million. And by then, tobacco had generated only $50 million in government coffers. Now, that is just cancer. Gone into cardiac diseases, the chronic obstructive diseases, diabetes, impotence,
Tuberculosis.
infertility, even in, by the way, tuberculosis is not a non-communicable disease, but as he rightly put it, if you have tuberculosis and you smoke, it propagates, it exaggerates, you know, it accelerates the condition. So, the losses are far, far higher. Professor Kidane from the University of Dar es Salaam did a survey at Muhimbili in 2014. Cardiovascular diseases that are tobacco related in 1 year cost the government $136 million. Now, if you look on the environment, 2010-11 in Tabora,
Much more disastrous.
trees that were cut to cure tobacco in Urambo only were worth $10 million. So, if you put on the balance, and I have some figures here actually of our friends. 1961, Kenya had 405 hectares of tobacco. Uganda had 12,000, and Tanzania had 5,000. To date, in 2016, Kenya has 12,000, Uganda has 30,000, Tanzania has 148,000. You don't want to tell me that we know business more than Kenya or Uganda for that matter. So, I mean, the whole idea is it's a saddening situation. There's a country actually within the community that wants to eliminate tobacco totally. Their production is going down. They all have laws that are in line with the convention. Even Zanzibar has a law. And the World Bank has done studies WHO says for each dollar that comes from tobacco, $6 are spent to treat tobacco-related diseases. So this question of business does not exist anymore in other countries. And we have companies that have closed business in neighboring East African countries,
Coming
and
to
they are
Tanzania.
here.
Yeah.
And we have one big company that is being sued at the moment by Sweden for second degree manslaughter, because they manufacture a deadly product. They deliberately know it's deadly. They advocate for it. They promote it. Why shouldn't they be sued? And this lady minister was saying, we are confident we're going to win this war. So our case is saddening. It's a disaster.
Yeah, but even to add, as when we went to Tabora again, if you look at the of course people say government revenue, but then what does the farmer get? Because
Yeah.
the poorest group of farmers in Tabora, I think, are farmers, tobacco farmers. They should be very
Everywhere.
poor. They should be very poor, and you look at them, it's a bondage. They are in a trap. They can't get themselves out of it, but they are really tired because the inputs are supplied by either agents or the tobacco industry itself. And those guys are like slaves. When they harvest, everything will have to be paid, through from their yields. And they pay heavily. They pay heavily because when tobacco goes to the auctions, the price is decided there. They say it's market prices being decided. But most of the time, farmers don't have a control of that. The tobacco industry has. Companies have. So most of the times, they shortchange them. They are poor, and even countries that are growing a lot of tobacco, everywhere, in whichever place you go, that's the poorest. Now, where is the revenue?
I was reading a couple of days about Malawi.
Yeah, the poorest.
The tobacco farmers are the poorest. So they're saying the conclusion is that these tobacco industries are exploiting
A lot.
tobacco farmers. All right.
All
Time.
countries that grow tobacco
Yes.
are poor. Now, the GDP for Tanzania average
Yes.
is 160 for the people. In Tabora, it's 133.
That's Urambo.
Tabora,
Tabora
the
as a
whole region,
region.
yeah.
So everywhere you have tobacco.
poor.
And this is not particular to Tanzania. And by the way, Malawi is #1 grower in Africa, but
Next-
is the last in terms of GDP.
Yeah, next
and
to
3/4
Zimbabwe.
is desert.
Zimbabwe is one. All right, very quickly, time is running out. Are the laws effective? And
Yeah, it's a very crucial question because we have just started discussing the content of the law itself. The WHO framework
yes,
has provided very clear guidance to member states when enacting their own laws, because when you enact a law, especially international law or any treaty, want to use it at domestic level, you need to domesticate that law. As Madam Lutgard has said, in our case, Tanzania is a dualist state. When we enact a law, we ratify the international convention. In order for it to be applicable in domestic systems, we need it to domesticate by enacting a law if we don't have one, or amending the existing law that we have. So for our case, we need to amend the existing tobacco products regulation of 2003 to be in conformity with the WHO convention. This law has a lot of loopholes. It does not have a binding force that will control tobacco products in the country. There are a number of issues that we need really to look into details. For instance, the WHO framework talks about labeling of tobacco products. No, there are conditions. You need to meet these criteria. The label should be in this way. It should be a deterrence labeling, not attractive. You know, but for our case, you find just small writings down there. Dangerous, smoking is dangerous to our health. But if you go to Europe, you will find a packet of cigarette. You can learn, no? It's showing how the effect of cigarette is to your body. It is threatening. It's not attracting to youth. But in our case here in Tanzania, labeling is very, very challenging.
okay.
And a number of issues. That's just one. There are a number of clauses provided in the framework, of which are not reflected to our domestic laws.
Since time is against us, we can't go into details about those things. But I hope Tanganyika Law Society, working with the Forum, Lutgard's organization, you have started working on improving the law.
We haven't yet started actually looking into specific causes, but we are organizing ourselves to do some advocacy works, to do some analysis where are the gaps, and in long run, I'm sure we're going to reach to that stage that we want, because always our campaign have been trying to push the government to enact a good law that will reflect the WHO standards. So for us as a technical persons, we are here to provide inputs. And when you ask Lutgard what has achieved so far, one of the biggest achievements she has ever made, it is to involve different professionals on the fight. Now we have a group of journalists who are doing some advocacy work. We have a group of lawyers who are doing the same. We have medical doctors who are doing the same. So if we combine those efforts, we have a combination. We have a team that will provide inputs to a technical and practical law that will be reflecting the WHO framework on tobacco control.
I'm sorry, gentlemen. I know it was reading 10 minutes, but surely it has gone down even further. and we have the last question very quickly. Again, I'll start with you, Mr. Mlowe. So I have 5 minutes only, within which for me to conclude. Very quickly. So what are the challenges, if there are many, but if there is one, okay, in achieving this tobacco control?
One of the biggest challenges is tobacco industry interference. You know, the fight on tobacco control is not easy, especially for we as civil society, non-state actors trying to enforce changes. We are poor, you know. We don't have enough resources to reach out to all places of this country. But the tobacco industries are very powerful. So their interference is much higher than what we try to impact to them.
It's the smoker who makes them rich, all right? So very quickly, Dr. Mashombo.
Yes.
One challenge, very quickly, we go around.
One challenge here is the fact that the diseases that are related with tobacco come after a very longer time.
Yes.
People doesn't have any, they don't perceive the outcomes in terms of smoking.
Yes.
Could we start from household level, if at all the laws will work? Could we start from household levels? Could we go to all these churches and mosques and all the religions?
Or schools.
All primary schools, even the secondary schools, you see, because this is where we pick all these young people. You know, I was reading one of the writings that 50,000 of pupils are smokers on daily basis. 2.6 million people in Tanzania are smokers on one day. You can imagine all these people around. And new people are coming in, because if you are today, you were 17, tomorrow you'll be 18.
Yes.
And adults as well. Women of young age were not smokers as they are today. Women of 54 years are quite good smokers.
Okay. So, very quickly, what is it that is required?
What is required, I think, information is power. We still have to join Lutgard and others, that everybody gets to knowing what are the hazards of tobacco. Even the curriculums from secondary school, primary schools, and the like, even to the university. They should be taught that tobacco has no advantage, has no anything to do with health.
Tobacco kills. Very quickly before she comes last.
As the doctor has said, it's very clear that we need advocacy, a lot of advocacy, because if we can't, while we're putting a lot of resources to fight against or to counter the tobacco industry's promotion, we need really at family level, word of mouth, and you know, advocates tell the kids. There's evidence is everywhere. There's ample evidence to tell them, okay, if you want to smoke, you will look like this, and they will not smoke.
Sure, the smokers.
Okay. Last but not least, very quickly, one challenge. I know you have so many.
The law, for me, is the law.
The law.
He put it very rightly. Number one challenge is the tobacco industry. And even countries that have succeeded, they've come a long way. The industry is always interfering. In Kenya, when a bill would be tabled in Parliament, after that, all MPs would be given a recess in Mombasa, and they come back with huge envelopes, and then it would be put down. So it was a long fight until they got this lady minister You know, ladies. So me, I'm appealing to the government through the Ministry of Health, because they are the custodian. If we have a good law, all these can be taken care of.
So, well, my panelists, thank you very much for your analysis of the importance of tobacco control and whether tobacco is a health hazard or not. I mean, you cited a lot of countries, many countries that are involved with this, and historical background as well, and the law and what's need to be done. So it's very important that what is being done by the forum and all the stakeholders, including the Law Society as well as the Tanzania Public Health Association and the like, including the journalists and the media houses, they should take heed on this, and they should do something to reduce, if not, eradicating or eliminating completely tobacco. And my viewers, I apologize to you when I use the word excessive. According to Lutgard, it's not excessive. It's all tobacco smoking. Even a single stick is dangerous. Now, will there be something done by our legislators, the government, and through the Ministry of Health, which is the leader in this situation, to actually come up with solutions like they've done in our neighboring countries? Let us wait and see. But surely, tobacco smoking is dangerous. There's no advantage. It kills. It's dangerous.
And farming as well.
And farming, of course. And
I wish we had time to talk about
I
farming.
know. Next time we'll well,
Number 17
I know.
and
Number
that
Yeah.
18.
I know you wanted to
Crucial,
talk
really.
more, but we're
Yeah.
limited with time. So on that note, I must say thank you very much, my panelists. And on behalf of viewers, on behalf of the panel, Finnegan Wasimbe, who is from the Guardian Business Times, or Business Magazine, Lutgard Kokulinda Kagaruki,
Thank
the
you.
Secretary General of the Tanzania Tobacco Control Forum, Dr. Mashombo Mkamba, and lawyer, not necessarily advocate, but lawyer, Patience Mlowe, and my TBC Television Center crew. Thank you, viewers, and goodbye.